When a journalist mocked Barron Trump during a charity gala, no one could have predicted that his calm reaction would become the evening's defining moment. The ballroom of the Fairmont Grand Hotel was nothing short of spectacular. Crystal chandeliers sparkled overhead, casting a warm glow over an audience of elegantly dressed guests. The room hummed with soft conversation, a fitting backdrop for the prestigious annual event supporting underprivileged youth. The crowd was a mix of prominent figures. Business tycoons, celebrities, and journalists, all mingling in a display of sophistication. Amid the lively chatter, a subtle tension filled the air as everyone awaited the much-anticipated keynote speech. Positioned discreetly at a back table was Barron Trump. Though only 18, his tall stature and composed demeanor naturally drew attention. Invited by a family friend, Barron wasn't seeking the limelight. He appeared content to quietly observe, his piercing blue eyes scanning the room with a maturity that surpassed his years. The evening had unfolded flawlessly so far. A string quartet's soothing melodies played as waiters moved gracefully through the crowd, offering gourmet hors d'oeuvres and glasses of champagne. The atmosphere was both elegant and warm, with ripples of laughter punctuating light-hearted conversations. Yet, as the time for the keynote address approached, the mood shifted. Excitement mingled with curiosity as the attendees prepared for a speech that promised to challenge perspectives. The speaker, a prominent journalist celebrated for their sharp wit and provocative takes, had been announced weeks earlier as the highlight of the event. Known for their ability to polarize, the journalist's words were revered by some and criticized by others. Tonight, their reputation as a boundary pusher had the crowd on edge, uncertain of what to expect. As the MC introduced the journalist, the room fell silent. Conversation stopped, glasses were lowered, and all attention turned to the stage. Even Barron shifted slightly in his seat, his face revealing nothing. The journalist, exuding charisma in a sleek black suit, approached the podium with a confident smile. Polite applause greeted them, but the tension in the room was palpable. The address began smoothly, with light humor and charm setting an easy tone. The journalist joked about the city's notorious traffic and shared a playful story about a champagne tower mishap from a previous gala, earning chuckles and breaking the initial tension. For a moment, it felt like another polished event. Pleasant, predictable, and uncontroversial. But as the speech progressed, their focus sharpened. General commentary on politics and culture gave way to pointed critiques, targeting public figures with biting humor. Each jab sparked mixed reactions. Some laughed while others exchanged uneasy glances. Eventually, the journalists turned their attention to Donald Trump. "Well, we can't talk about the state of the world without mentioning the man who made orange the new black," they quipped, prompting scattered laughter. "Love him or hate him, you've got to admit, he's the gift that keeps on giving. For people like me." The crowd's response was divided. Some laughed openly, while others fidgeted in their seats. Barron, sitting quietly at his table, remained motionless, his expression inscrutable. If the journalist was aware of his presence, they gave no indication. The jabs continued, growing sharper. The journalist mocked Trump's policies, tweets, and public appearances. Gradually, the laughter grew faint, replaced by an undercurrent of discomfort rippling through the audience. The journalist wasn't done yet. "And of course," they said, pausing for dramatic effect, "we can't overlook his most enduring legacy, the next generation. Let's talk about Barron." A ripple of gasps spread through the room as heads turned toward the young man, now the center of everyone's gaze. Barron sat motionless, his face betraying no emotion. Though the journalist's tone remained lighthearted, their words carried an unmistakable edge. "Imagine growing up in a golden tower, surrounded by marble and luxury, while your dad tweets about coffee and we're all just trying to survive Monday mornings. That must have been character building," they joked. The attempt at humor landed poorly. A few in the audience chuckled nervously, but most sat frozen, their unease palpable. The spotlight had shifted, unwanted and unexpected, squarely onto Barron. Yet Barron didn't falter. While the weight of the moment might have been crushing for others, he remained composed, his expression unreadable. What he did next, however, would leave the entire room speechless. The atmosphere grew heavier as all eyes fixated on him. The journalist's words still hung in the air, cutting and sharp, while the crowd waited for Barron's response. But he didn't flinch. He didn't shift in his seat or look around uneasily. Instead, he remained perfectly still, his hands resting lightly on the edge of the table, his posture calm yet commanding. The silence stretched, amplifying the tension. People exchanged uneasy glances, their discomfort mirrored in their expressions. Even the journalists seemed to notice the shift. Their confident smirk wavered as they glanced toward Barron's table, perhaps expecting a laugh, a dismissive shrug, anything but this poised defiance. Barron's silence wasn't apathy. It was something far more profound. It conveyed an unspoken message. I hear you, I see you, and I will not be shaken. His understated presence seemed to expand, filling the room with a quiet authority that was impossible to ignore. The once lively room had grown unnervingly quiet. Even those who had laughed moments earlier now seemed to realize the gravity of what had transpired. Barron's silence was more than the absence of words. It was a declaration. A soft murmur broke through the tension as someone near the stage whispered to their neighbor. The journalist cleared their throat, attempting to regain control. Tough crowd, they muttered into the microphone, forcing a chuckle that no one echoed. The air was thick, charged with anticipation. And then, Barron moved. Slowly and deliberately, he pushed back his chair. The soft scrape of the legs against the floor was the only sound in the room. Rising to his full height, his 6-foot frame seemed even more imposing. Calm and composed, he surveyed the room, his gaze steady and resolute before settling on the journalist. He walked toward the stage, each step measured, his posture unwavering. The journalist froze, their earlier confidence draining as Barron approached. The audience, wide-eyed and breathless, watched in stunned silence. No one knew what he would do or say, but it was clear that this young man had seized control of the moment. When Barron stopped just shy of the stage and finally spoke, his words were not what anyone had anticipated. Standing tall, his voice steady and deliberate, he broke the silence with a single sentence that cut through the tension like a blade. Thank you for your perspective. His calm yet resolute tone left both the journalist and the crowd utterly unprepared for what followed. There was no anger in Barron's voice, no hint of outrage, only an uncanny sense of calm and control that seemed far beyond his years. I've grown up watching people make assumptions about me, my family, and my life, he began, his gaze locked on the journalist. For some, it's almost a game, a way to fill in the blanks when they don't know the full story. And I understand that. We're public figures. It comes with the territory. The room was utterly silent, every person captivated by the clarity and poise in his voice. Even those who had laughed earlier now sat motionless, their expressions betraying discomfort. But there's something people often forget, Barron continued, his tone gaining a quiet intensity. Behind every headline, behind every joke, there's a human being, someone with struggles, dreams, and a story of their own. You might think you know me because of who my father is. But the truth is, you don't. Not really. The journalist, who had been gripping the edges of the podium, now looked visibly uneasy. Barron's words weren't an attack, they were a reflection, holding up a mirror to the moment. One thing I've learned, Barron added, pausing briefly, is that respect shouldn't have to be earned. It should be given freely, especially when you don't know someone's story. A murmur rippled through the crowd, but Barron wasn't finished. He shifted his focus slightly, addressing the audience as much as the journalist. We live in a time where it's so easy to tear each other down, he said, his voice steady but laced with quiet conviction. Words have power. They can hurt, or they can heal. They can divide, or they can unite. And I think we could all use a little more of the latter. The audience was spellbound. Barron's words, spoken with unwavering composure, carried a resonance far beyond his age. It was clear he wasn't just addressing the moment. He was speaking to something larger, something universal. He took a step back, his eyes once again meeting the journalist's. I hope this gives you something to think about, he said softly. There was no bitterness in his tone, only an understated strength that left the room in awe. Without another word, Barron turned and walked back to his seat. The soft click of his shoes on the polished floor echoed in the stunned silence. No one moved, no one spoke. Even the journalist remained frozen, their earlier confidence completely dissolved. But as Barron sat back down, the applause began. A single hesitant clap from the front of the room that quickly gained momentum, rippling through the ballroom like a wave. In moments, the entire room was on its feet, erupting into a thunderous standing ovation. Some applauded with admiration for his grace, while others seemed to seek redemption for the awkwardness that had hung in the air just moments before. The journalist, still standing at the podium, tried to muster a smile, but the moment no longer belonged to them. Seated at his table, Barron didn't react to the applause. He simply nodded politely to those around him. It wasn't shyness or false humility, it was the quiet confidence of someone who had said exactly what needed to be said. Within hours, videos of the moment flooded social media. Clips of Barron's speech, discreetly recorded by attendees, began spreading across platforms like wildfire. Tweets, Instagram posts, and TikTok videos captured the essence of the evening, with captions ranging from admiration for Barron's poise to critiques of the journalist's misplaced humor. Barron Trump just gave a masterclass in grace and respect, read one viral post. And as the clips continued to circulate, it became clear. Barron's words had resonated far beyond the walls of the ballroom. One viral tweet summed it up succinctly, while a post from a well-known celebrity in attendance added, "No matter your opinion of his family, this young man gave us all something to reflect on." The following morning, the story made headlines. Some outlets praised Barron for his composure, calling it a defining moment for a young man who had lived much of his life under the lens of public scrutiny. Others turned the spotlight on the journalist's remarks, sparking debate over whether public figures, especially young ones, should ever be considered fair targets for such commentary. In response to the uproar, the journalist issued a statement. "Comedy and commentary are powerful tools, but they must be used responsibly. Last night, I crossed a line, and I apologize to Barron Trump for my remarks." Yet not everyone was quick to accept the apology. Talk shows, podcasts, and online forums buzzed with heated discussions. Some argued that Barron's speech was a much-needed plea for civility in a world increasingly divided. Others viewed it as a poignant reminder of the humanity often overlooked in public figures. For Barron, the whirlwind of attention seemed inconsequential. He quietly returned to his routine, showing the same poise that had defined his response at the gala. Friends and family noted that he barely acknowledged the media frenzy, choosing instead to focus on his studies and personal pursuits. But while Barron moved on, the ripples of his actions lingered, sparking discussions far beyond the walls of the ballroom. As the media eventually shifted to other stories, the moment endured in everyday conversations. Around dinner tables, in classrooms, and in workplaces. People revisited the night's events not just for its drama, but for the lessons it imparted. Barron's calm and thoughtful response had struck a deep chord in a time dominated by outrage and instant reactions. His decision to address the situation with grace and perspective stood out as a rare anomaly. For many, the incident became a mirror to their own lives, prompting questions. How often do we pause before reacting? How often do we choose to build others up instead of tearing them down? Parents seized the opportunity to teach their children about the value of respect and empathy. Teachers used videos of Barron's speech and lessons about conflict resolution and effective communication, praising his ability to handle criticism without resorting to hostility. The most profound impact of that evening, however, was its ability to momentarily bridge divides. People from varying political beliefs and backgrounds found common ground in their admiration for Barron's maturity. His actions transcended his family name or his father's legacy. They reflected universal values of respect and dignity. By choosing to rise above provocation, Barron had reminded those in the room, and countless others watching from afar, that dignity is a choice. His example demonstrated that even in polarized, heated moments, the power of kindness and integrity can shine through. Conversations about the night continued to echo with a recurring sentiment: words can harm, but they can also heal. It's up to us to decide how we use them. In the end, Barron's response wasn't just about defending his own dignity, it became a source of collective introspection. He showed that respect, even when seemingly undeserved, can transform a moment, a conversation, or even a mindset. His actions encouraged people to reflect on how they communicate with others and underscored the importance of choosing empathy over division. If this story resonates, let it serve as a reminder. Words have immense power. Use them wisely. Whether addressing a friend, a stranger, or someone with whom you disagree. Choose respect and empathy. Together, let's keep this conversation alive and strive to make dignity and understanding the norm, not the exception. Remember, share it with someone who might need it today. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more stories that inspire, challenge, and bring us closer together.